Hello honeys, today we're talking all about swing rock. From its real life inspirations to chords you probably never even heard of, I've found everything there is to know. There will be minor spoilers for the Aikatsu anime, so if that's okay with you, let's get started. Swing rock is, to put it lightly, an Aikatsu brand with a vast abyss of references that I didn't want to look into that deeply. But I did it anyway, and I looked at a lot of grungy men doing gross things in horrible places. And I'll spare you most of the details since it'd be a massive vibe shift from the rest of my channel. Our main inspirations for swing rock are the British punk movement, plus a little bit of rock and roll and visual kei. I'm going to gloss over a lot of names and historical moments on purpose since a lot of them involve mature content, so if you catch anything you want to elaborate on in the comments, please go ahead. There are two sides to rock music that we need to untangle first. The Western history is different than the Japanese history of that term. When Westerners say rock, they could mean musical acts like Elvis Presley or the Beatles, 50s and 60s, hippies, and the movie Grease. And that's not quite what swing rock is referencing. Rock music took off in Japan with the introduction of punk rock in the 70s, British punk rock specifically. So in Japan, when you hear rock, it's usually going to be referencing punk music and fashion. To put it very simply, punk is one form of rock music. But Japan recognizes punk as their original rock music. So for them, rock equals punk, at least in the beginning. And then there's a really long, winding, branching history after that, so let's keep breaking it down. Imagine it's the 70s. You're a teenage or young adult boomer in the UK. For any number of political reasons, you're rebellious and cynical about the world. You join a group of like-minded people and decide to disrupt the status quo as much as possible. Anything shocking or upsetting to the mainstream is an option. Because of your unconventional lifestyle, you and your friends can only afford clothes from thrift shops. You mend holes with whatever you have on hand, like safety pins, chains, and studs. Secondhand stores are full of old leather military uniforms discarded after World War II, so that becomes a big part of your new look. Hair gets bigger and wilder, outfits get grungier, and future superstar fashion designer Vivienne Westwood starts leading the style of the movement. She's designing for a punk rock band called the Sex Pistols, and she uses traditional British patterns like tartan and plaid to emphasize their subversive messaging. And it's that style, delivered by the Sex Pistols during a 1977 Tokyo concert, that sends shockwaves throughout Japan. Living in a much more restrictive, conservative culture on the other side of post-war cynicism, Japanese people latched onto punk with even more fervor than the UK movement did. In Japan, punk revolutionized underground music and fashion. It was even more harshly targeted by Japanese authorities and mainstream culture, and it became even more beloved in Japan than in its home country. Punk fashion permeates Japanese alt fashion. It is the source of the extreme experimentation we see in J-fashion styles. Its music exploded into tons of different musical genres, and Japan is still full of too many rock bands to even hope to count. It's a cultural legacy that Western audiences usually only glimpse through a few favorite Japanese bands, or anime openings, or fashion subcultures. Even high fashion designers like Kawakubo Rei, who we've covered before, are intimately connected with punk as a disruptive aesthetic philosophy. And because the rock in swing rock is the lone representative of this enormous movement in Japan, it's impossible to fit in the entire breadth of the references it's making, because a lot of it is just not accessible to foreign audiences. Unlike idol culture, which is meant for consumption, we're not usually supposed to find the rock that Aikatsu is referencing. But I'll give you some places to look anyway. Vivienne Westwood, who originally led the punk fashion movement, became a celebrated designer in Japan. The British motifs in swing rock are mostly because of her. The brighter colors might remind you of visual kei, an evolution of punk fashion that I mostly understand to be a Japanese version of the concept of alt fashion. A broad range of styles, often with corresponding musical niches, which I won't get into here. There are a few pieces which have some more gothic Lolita influences, which share some elements with visual kei. You can even see traces of earlier rock and roll glam and psychedelic styles through the more traditional military motifs. And the weirdest reference I found was to Pirates of the Caribbean for the treasure map dresses. The Aikatsu Card All Collection second season book specifically says, "Look cool in a Pirates of the Caribbean style." It turns out that Jack Sparrow and pirates more broadly are considered style inspirations for rock in some Japanese subcultures. And you know what? I can kind of see the similarities. If you want to find even more of this style, you'll want to check out the magazines Kara and Fruits. For music, let's go with Scandal, Baby Metal, and Malice Miser as the very tippy top of the iceberg. I'll also link a few videos in the description if you're interested in more of the history and rock groups behind this massive movement. Swing rock's top designer, Makina, is a great window into the punk rock philosophy and the glamour associated with its music. We know from the brand's official description that she was part of a popular rock band called Swings, which explains the name. The Aikatsu series' 10th anniversary book adds that the brand was born when Makina, a former rock band member, created her own stage costumes. None of that backstory shows up in the Aikatsu anime. The most we hear is that Makina is a world-traveling bassist. So she's a former rock band member, but she still works as a musician. She tours London and Berlin with whatever group she's currently playing for, maybe just as a contractor at this point. And when she's home in Japan, she designs clothes for idols. I couldn't find anyone specific that Makina was based on, since in reality her story seems to be a fairly common one. Maybe minus the designing for idols part. As harsh as the punk scene can be on the idol industry, Makina seems to enjoy the more youthful side of music and entertainment. She has no problem designing a dress for Seira when Key requests one, even though Seira hasn't even debuted yet. And her brand sponsors an idol concert at Dream Academy to attract even more idol customers. That's why when she gets an opportunity to work with the top designer of Angel Sugar, Amahane Asaka, she's excited. Angel Sugar is one of the top idol brands, and Makina wants to learn as much as she can. She's so into the collaboration that she pulls multiple all-nighters for it, and is really proud of the final result. The only other time she appears is when she watches Akari's first year recital with other designers, and when she participates in the romance story collaboration. As far as brand representatives go, Makina doesn't seem especially close with Seira or any other idol. Akari's former roommate Yu is the only other character we see who is associated with swing rock at all. Oh, and Sakura's roommate Satsuki. Which is cute considering how both of Ichigo's successors end up with their own swing rock counterpart just like her and Seira. I talk more about Seira in my Dream Academy deep dive, and I'll probably cover Satsuki a little bit in my upcoming Sakura deep dive. As for Yu, I think it's nice that she's gotten a little more focus over the years. Her design is a beta version of Hinaki's, as explained by character designer Hiroko Yaguchi in the Aikatsu official guidebook Akari Generation. She says, I originally thought about Yu's design as Hinaki's design. I tried drawing her with straight, blonde, short hair, but she looked like Ichigo, so it was rejected. But I wanted to make use of this design somewhere, so I used it for Yu. Yaguchi continues, Yu is a character that is not scheduled to appear in the game, so I was allowed to design her freely, and I packed in my preferences. Her appearance is supposed to be small, but thanks to the love of staff and viewers, she was able to appear frequently, so I was happy too. With Seira out of the spotlight after season 2 of the original anime, Yu's continued popularity proves the enduring popularity of the punk rock style even amongst idol fans. The contrast that these rock characters create with their fluffier, gentler counterparts is a big part of their charm. The only other bit of trivia I can think to cover here is a bit of an extension of the American licensing lore I talked about in my Magical Toy deep dive. Since Makina goes on tour in London, and that reminds me of the K-On! Movie where the protagonist band does the same, which is like the original Love Live movie where the characters go to New York City to perform, which is like the beginning of the Idolmaster movie where a few characters also go to America. The point being that with so many major idol franchises making movies where characters head west for work in the early 2010s, it makes sense that Aikatsu's movie originally had a very similar plot. You can almost picture it in your head if you've seen all those other movies already. I wouldn't be surprised if Ichigo's elaborately designed American flashbacks are remnants of designs from that original concept. But anyway, let's move on. Swing Rock's official brand description is pretty concise. From the live venues of the popular rock band Swings comes a popular rock brand issuing dresses with a live all their own. The Aikatsu official guidebook adds, punk fashion with a cool vibe, a brand characterized by rock-style designs. And the real-life designer Hashimoto Kayako says in the Animage Aikatsu edition, for swing rock, if I imagined it solely as rock, it would probably have a lot of black designs, so I incorporated musical notes, cats, and neon colors. The base is black, but I tried to keep it from being too dark by keeping in mind fun rock. Swing Rock had 36 coords in the original series, with 2 more, Purple Gravity and White Gravity, added in Aikatsu on Parade. The mobile game Aikatsu Photo on Stage added 28 more coords for a total of 66 Swing Rock designs. And I already have a video ranking all of these photocopy designs, so you can check those out if they interest you. There are some really cool concepts in there. Swing Rock is one of the only brands that has 2 assigned constellations. First is Scorpio, including Musical Scorpio, Sweet Devil, Pinkish Union, and Topaz Scorpio. Second is Gemini, including Swing Gemini and Bitter Twins. Its romance story is The Nutcracker, represented by Nutcracker Prince. And it has no Dream Story, Fever, or Boom coords. Its premium rares are Musical Scorpio and Swing Gemini. One of your questions is why Aikatsu decided to make a rock-themed brand as their next cool brand. From everything I've read over the years, that decision probably came down to character design. The first 2 cool type idols, Aoi and Eureka, are friends of Ichigo, so it's better if they have brands that fit into the idol aesthetic. But Seira was meant to be a rival first, so they looked outside of the idol industry for her brand style, to make her an obvious outsider and potential threat. But even in that decision, they clearly didn't go too far outside of the idol aesthetic for Seira. Not in silhouette, color palette, or motifs. Same for you, for that matter. Satsuki is probably the most punk Aikatsu character, and that's mostly down to her hairstyle. The original Swing Rock sticks pretty close to silhouettes and motifs established by Lowly Gothic. You can see how much farther the punk rock concept was pushed in the design created in collaboration with AKB48 member Shimazaki Haruka. It stands out as significantly darker and grungier. The Photokatsu designs didn't even get that authentic as far as true J-rock fashion goes. I've got to give Aikatsu on Parade credit for pushing the brand towards a little more grunge, but that's only because it's pulling from Aikatsu Stars' Spice Chord brand. And Spice Chord is a puzzle that I am not equipped to break down just yet. Anyway, Swing Rock's concept is one we will continue to see as we go through future series together. Even though the original brand barely scraped past season 2 of the original anime, rock is just too huge of a genre to leave out of a music-themed franchise. We eventually get to full-on punk fashion in Aikatsu Planet with Bloody Rock, so the future is bright for now. Tell me your thoughts about Swing Rock, and make sure to check out my Swing Rock rankings next. Our final original series brand deep dive for Aurora Fantasy is coming up in the next few weeks. Bye bye!
Spring coming soon!